Hi there everyone, Tash here and welcome to episode 12 of How to Renovate. In this episode, I'll be covering some tips on your bathroom layout. 28% of renovators in the UK are focusing on their bathrooms when they do a renovation. So they are quite high up there on the list for rooms to renovate in the home. So bathrooms are usually the smaller spaces, aren't they? They're usually the smaller spaces in the home. So space planning is really essential. You need to have a good functional layout. That's essential. And you know, you've got a lot to fit in quite a small area in a bathroom. So here are my 5 top tips for nailing that bathroom layout. In my 5-pillar process, the information in this episode falls under pillar 2, preparation. So everything I teach about renovations falls under my 5-pillar process, and there'll be more information on how to get your hands on some of the resources at the end of the episode. So listen out for that. Let's go. Okay, so my top tip number 1 for bathrooms is establish your needs. So this really is just writing a brief for yourself. It's really essential to know how you want to use the space. So ask yourself questions like, would you prefer a shower or a bath? Or are both essential to you? Maybe you have children and you need to have a bath in the house for a good amount of years still. Or would you prefer a single vanity or a double vanity unit? You know, how much countertop space do you need? How many products do you use? So really digging down and establishing what you really want and need from the space will kind of majorly dictate the layout. So there's a lot to fit in. There's a lot to fit in the bathroom, and it's quite likely going to be a small space. Living here in London, you know, bathrooms and kitchens, they usually are the smaller spaces in the homes. So there's a lot to fit in. So you have to do some really careful planning. Okay, my top tip number 2 is check your spacing. So make sure there's enough space to move around comfortably. So in the interior design world, we have measurements to make sure there's enough spacing around things or for things. And these measurements are called circulation and activity space measurements. I'm going to go through with you now some of these measurements. If you're listening on the podcast and you're not watching, there is a slide I'm going to be talking through right now with a diagram. And if you would like to, you can go and watch this episode to see the slide, but I'm going to talk through it now with you. In front of a shower, you want at least 800 millimeters, so that's 80 centimeters. And that just ensures that there's enough space to kind of get out, grab a towel, move around to dry yourself. And then the same really with a bathtub. You want about 80 centimeters in front of it for really a kind of minimum sufficient amount of space to do the same. In front of a toilet, again, you probably want about 800 in front of the toilet. And also the toilet really should be placed in the center of a space that's not smaller than 800 millimeters wide as well. And in front of a sink or a vanity unit, about 700 is sufficient. You probably want to have about 700, which is 70 centimeters space in front of a sink, so that you can kind of have enough space to stand in front of it, do what you need to do, and with not kind of tripping up or bumping into anything else in the bathroom. So those are the kind of standard minimum spaces in the interior design world. But I do realise, like I say, in big cities here in London, quite often you have to work with less than that, and you do have to compromise somewhat. But if you have the luxury of a decent space, then these are the minimums that you should work to. So moving on to tip number 3, which is adding plenty of storage. Oh, good storage is so important in the bathroom or in any small space really, because but bathrooms can get very cluttered. There's so many products, there's plastic bottles, towels. And so adding good functional storage, particularly in small bathrooms, is an absolute must. I always try and kind of add in little hidden nooks and things in bathrooms, recessed shelves and niches inside the showers or inside the walls, above the toilet, wherever I can. I always add some some space for storage. But you can add some storage in some other ways as well. You can choose vanity units with cupboards or drawers. Some of them, they're just the kind of sink with the legs or the sink on a pedestal. But if you choose something with storage underneath, that will greatly increase the storage in the room. You could go for a recessed mirror cabinet, or instead of just a regular flat mirror, you could go for a mirrored cabinet, which will give you lots of storage behind for, it's usually quite shallow, but it's sufficient for lots of bottles and so on for products. Hiding your shaver sockets into the storage as well, which reduces the clutter, so you don't have to have your toothbrush charger and the cable and the plug and the toothbrush all on your countertop. If you make sure that you can have a shaver socket fitted inside the drawer, inside the cabinet, then it keeps your countertops clear of the kind of messy cables laying around. And then of course, towel storage. I always find it really helpful to be able to actually store towels inside the bathroom rather than elsewhere. It just means that they're always there, they're always accessible when you need them. And if you plan for it, you will then regain that storage where you would have stored them elsewhere in the house. So storage is a top tip in the small bathrooms. Okay, so moving on to top tip number 4, which is plan for plumbing. So for this, I mean, really think about placing the plumbing fixtures in a way that optimizes functionality. So for example, if you position the shower and the bathtub kind of near the water supply, so if you think about where the water supply comes into the home, if you plan, or your architect plans, that the bathroom setup is planned to be connected quite easily into the water supply, it will minimize plumbing costs and it will minimize labor as well, because the plumber won't have to run pipes to an area where it's far away from the water supply or there wasn't a water supply before. So if this is possible, this is a great way to save money. If it's kind of replacing a bathroom where it was and trying to keep things more or less in the places closest to the relevant water supply or drainage, this really can save you quite a lot of money. Okay, and top tip number 5 is to choose appropriately sized sanitary ware. Choose fixtures that kind of work with the scale of the room. So if you're lucky enough to have a nice big bathroom, you can choose maybe a nice big roll top bathtub, a huge shower, double vanity. But when you have a smaller bathroom, and let's say you're trying to squeeze a double vanity in there, and you still need to put in the shower, the bathtub, the toilet, it will seem cramped and it will seem badly designed. So keep in mind the scale of the room and the scale of the fixtures and the sanitary ware you're putting in there, because the scale of the fixtures are wrong for the room. It will seem wrong and it will overwhelm the space. So just try and keep to the same scale as the room you're working with. And there are so many more compact fixtures now than there used to be. I found there are so many more size options available for things like vanity units, even toilets. You can get really compact ones now. If you're working with a smaller space, just choose those smaller options. It will actually make the room seem more spacious. And another little trick is to keep the floor space clear. So wall-mounted items like wall-mounted vanity units or floating vanity units or wall-mounted toilet pans, they all will kind of lift everything up off the floor and give you the illusion. If you can see the floor underneath, it will give you the illusion of having more space in the bathroom for that more of an open, airy feel. So really think about your fixtures and fittings. It can make such a difference to how the bathroom feels. And the last thing you want is to go into the bathroom and everything feels really crowded and overwhelmed. We're lucky enough now to have all those extra options for us. Okay, so that actually brings us to the end. So that's the end of our episode on top tips for your bathroom. And I really hope you found it helpful. I hope you get to start planning that dream bathroom renovation that you've always been thinking about. It's bye for now, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye everyone. For more information on my 5-pillar process for successful renovation, you can go directly to southplacestudio.com www.revamp.com/pillars, where you'll find an introduction to the process and what each pillar covers.